An asteroid hitting the Earth is one of the very few events that could change life as we know it completely. This is an example of the Barringer crater that was taken from the United States Geological Survey. And this would have had a relatively small effect, but still would have affected probably an area of a large portion of the United States. And larger asteroids have the potential to completely change Earth as we know it, such as the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. But how accurately can we actually track that, and what keeps us from doing things even more accurately? So there are a number of asteroids, big and small, that we have tracked. This is some of the ones that we've sent spacecraft to visit for size comparison. And there are some less typical asteroids, man-made ones, that have been sent in there too. But why are these things so difficult to actually track? Well, first of all, you have to identify where they are. So you might get a camera image that looks like this, and you're looking for one tiny object that's this accurate, and you have to measure how careful it is to the accuracy of as small as you can get it. The fractions of an arc second would be best, because even a small error can be magnified when propagated over time. So we can see here an actual asteroid that's being tracked. You can see it pointed out here. And it can be difficult to exactly identify where the object actually is. And even just these little fractions of a pixel that might make a huge difference if you propagate that forward in time to the point where it could be hundreds of kilometers off. Well, how big of a deal is hundreds of kilometers? Well, when it's just going through deep space, it's not that big of a deal. But when it passes close to a planet, it can get bended. Its path can be bended by gravity to do all kinds of interesting things. So each of the planets has a gravity well here, and you can see the gravity well of the various planets here in this cartoon from XKCD. You can see that the Earth is relatively small. Jupiter has a very, very large gravity well. Of course, if an asteroid or any object passes near Jupiter, it could end up anywhere. Well, and we've seen this happen too. This is an example of the Voyager 1 and the Voyager 2 spacecraft's trajectory. And you can see just how much they bent when they passed Jupiter and even Saturn. You can see the very, very sharp bending of the trajectory as they pass those two planets. This is because of the gravity effect. It was a gravitational slingshot, and it can be even more significant too. In this case, they sent it outside of the solar system, but it can just as easily send something to the inner solar system straight towards Earth. Well, so you have to know how accurate it is. There are some other things that make it difficult, especially for the small type of asteroids. There's an effect called the Yarkovsky Effect, where basically one side of the side that's facing the sun is heated up, and as the object rotates, then the heated up side tends to be the side that is the time of sunset, essentially. Well, a hotter satellite will emit more radiation, which will cause it to gently push, and the colder side will not push as much. That causes a net force that heads towards the direction of rotation here. So this is not very pronounced for large asteroids, but for a small one, it can be quite a noticeable effect. And lastly, there's solar pressure. Depending on the exact orientation of the asteroid, it is pushed away by the very sunlight that keeps it there. So it's being constantly pushed away. Again, for a large object such as Earth, this doesn't make much of a difference, but for a smaller object, it can make a significant difference. So we have to constantly monitor these. Otherwise, if the rotation changes or something happens that we're not taking into account, it's really hard to know what might happen. And, there could be collisions or something like that too that might affect this. So this is some pictures from the Catalina Sky Survey, which is one of the surveys that is detecting asteroids on a regular basis. They point the telescopes to try to determine every night where the objects are, and you can track moving objects to see where they might end up. And it's through efforts like this that we're able to continually refine the trajectories of these satellites or these asteroids. And there are a lot of asteroids out there. We know of thousands of these already, and we know of most of the ones that are probably going to affect Earth if we know it, but there's still a very good chance that there's some object out there that could be headed to Earth in the next 100 years or so. And if we know about it ahead of time, then we can prevent it from hitting Earth. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and, pay attention to asteroids because they really could make a difference. Until next time, keep on tracking and take care.